Okay, um, we're going to go over the power writing system. This is kind of a second shot at what I already did a video on this and we cover this in class. Um, but this is a system that we use here from grade 7 all the way through 12. And actually, anyone who teaches writing uses the same system. It's just not called the same thing. So there really is no difference. Okay, but what this does is it provides you with a way to remember certain aspects of any formal writing. Okay, so I guess before we're going to get into this, I want to talk about formal writing. I mention in class all the time that, we teach formal writing, and that's to say like essay writing, a developed paragraph, or maybe even at the paper level, you still have developed paragraphs. You're putting them together to make that paper. We're not talking about storytelling here. Stories tend to have characters, and we talk about plot and traits and setting and mood. We do talk a little bit about setting and mood as well here with formal writing, but uh, what this is going to deal with is any kind of writing that has to have some kind of format or development, where I'm looking for organization as we start at the top and then, end up done. So it's not informal. We're not going to be throwing in a lot of slang unless we're doing it on purpose. Um, for a purpose. So just keep this in mind. Formal writing. So the power writing system is easy. It consists of a, a level that we call P1, P2, and at most we have a power 3. Okay, that's the third level. Now, what you see most of the time then is a final power 1 at the bottom as well. And there's a reason for that because, like I said in the other video, if you go back far enough, or, you might hear or experience someone else's teaching of formal writing, what you're really dealing with is a topic sentence. Okay, and a topic sentence tells you what this paragraph, okay, and we're going to just pretend that we're only writing one paragraph here, what this paragraph is about. This one sentence controls everything in the paragraph. If we notice that we're, in the middle of our paragraph someplace and we're talking about something that is really very distant from what we had written in this topic sentence, then chances are that shouldn't be in that paragraph at all. That's kind of like rambling or getting off topic. So, I remember as a student, the first thing we did was figure out what we called a main idea. What is the main idea of our paragraph? And then we would break that down, and we're getting smaller and smaller and smaller until we had an exact topic sentence, one sentence long, and that ruled the paragraph. It's still the same. We're just going to kind of use these different terms to remember these. This is helpful because we have two P1s. The second one is a conclusion. And essentially what we have is a beginning and an ending. Now, a conclusion should naturally bring your paper to an end. We don't want to just write the end. No, no. Okay, I'm going to put that here, the end, and don't ever do that. That's not a quality ending. I always use the analogy that you're reading and then all of a sudden it feels like you just walked into a wall or jumped off a cliff. There's no smooth transition. You want it to slowly drift until it feels like we're done. Okay, music has this sort of feeling. Maybe even a movie you can think of has this feeling that you can almost predict the ending is coming before we get there, and that has something to do with transitions as well. And we'll talk about that later. But So these are both power ones, and they're very related. Now you might remember maybe from elementary teachers telling you, okay, your conclusion is a summary of what you said in the paper or in your paragraph. Well, I mean, I don't really like that definition because if you're doing a complete summary, one, you're just rephrasing everything that you already said. And, in some ways that's a little bit insulting to your reader. Like why say it all over again? The other thing is, that doesn't necessarily bring your paper to an end or your paragraph to an end all the time. It still sounds abrupt. So don't just summarize it, but they are connected. You have to somehow find a way to bring the topic of the paragraph back into your conclusion. Okay? So if there's two aspects of what a conclusion does, it does relate to the topic, but it brings it to an ending. So think of those two as your main goal for a conclusion. Now we're going to actually not even look at power 3s here yet. Okay? We're going to just look at the power 2 and say, well, okay, what is the power 2? Okay, power 2 is what I call support, or, supporting sentences. Okay, because we're never really just dealing with anything that's not in sentence form. These are supporting sentences, and we can have many. Eventually, what I'm going to have my students do is I ask them to write me a power 1, 2, 2, 2, 1 paragraph, and this is the paragraph symbol. Okay, and what that means is we're going to have a topic sentence, and we're going to have a conclusion sentence, but we're going to have 3 different ideas. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm off the page here. Okay, 3 different ideas, and all of these have to somehow go back and prove or support or say something extra about what it was that our topic sentence brought up in the first place. So one way we can do this is to look at an example. This is a very basic paragraph. As you can see from the top, it's a power 1, 2, 2, 1 paragraph. So we have 2 supporting ideas. Okay. So if I read this, I can say, by the time spring is here, I can hardly wait to start planting my camp garden near the water. Okay. I can identify that right away as my power 1. That's the topic sentence, which means it tells me and it controls what this paragraph is going to be about. At no point should I get away from that kind of world or bubble that I have created. Springtime and planting camp garden is going to be what this paragraph should ultimately be about. The next sentence is usually my first power 2. Normally, I frantically dig and churn the soil to make a rich, cozy home for my tomato plants. Okay, that obviously has something to do with planting a camp garden. I'm saying more about it. Okay, so that is my power 2 level. After this, it says, also, a garden is just not complete without spicy, crunchy jalapeno peppers. Okay, so I'm not repeating myself. I'm going in another direction. I'm telling more about the experience of planting my garden. So that is a second power 2. And if you're, notice there's only really one thing left here. I broke it up with an interjection here just to spice it up a little bit. I put, whew, the fall harvest is a tasty time of year. That is my conclusion. You can kind of tell or hear that the paragraph has come to an end. And the best part about it is I didn't just say the end. And another thing that I really dislike, or I think, isn't a very good ending is, and students do this too often, especially when they're coming into junior high, they'll write this is, or that is, and then they want to use the word why, or what, and then they go on to explain the rest. For instance, this is how I plant my garden every year. That's not really strong. Okay, find a more creative way to bring your paper to an end without doing this. And in my 7th, 8th grade classes, I always tell them this is not allowed. I will point it out every time I see it on a paper to avoid this. So if we look at the next one, next example, I don't have a title on either of these, which I always, you know, like titles, but it says, growing up is a tricky business. Well, right there. Okay, this isn't a complicated sentence. It's not really detailed. Obviously, the topic here is growing up and how it is, difficult at times. Okay, so that's my topic sentence, power one. I can jump all the way down and find the last sentence in the paragraph. It says, thank goodness for kids younger than me. Okay, again, just the sound of that sentence, I could hear that the paragraph is over. It's a little bit trickier to relate it to my topic sentence without reading the middle, but I'm thinking if we do so, it's going to make sense. Growing up is a tricky business. Every time I think I know an answer, someone older than me tells me I'm wrong. Okay, tricky business. Okay. Besides that, I can't walk down the hallway without my knees aching like an old man. Growing up, tricky business. These are related. I'm not straying from that topic sentence. And since when did my voice start to squeak like this? This one, I added in a third power 2. Okay, so it's a 1, 2, 2, 2, 1 paragraph. Thank goodness for kids younger than me. And now I think you can see how this transitions into relating back to growing up being a tricky business. Someone else can kind of take on the pressures, and hope we're all going to grow up and move out of those tough times. That's basically what it means. Okay.